Everyone is speaking out about this, and following what has been a very interesting year thus far for the Blue Jays, there's an even more interesting storyline down in the minor leagues surrounding two specific players, and we are witnessing something extremely special. We're going to break down exactly who those are and discuss what it means going forward as they have a very big opportunity to make an impact on the Jays in the near future. Stay tuned for all that, but before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. We're on the road to 17,000 subscribers, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today, and obviously the Jays are in a very interesting spot with the major league team. We'll also dive into, of course, the storyline of today, which is down in the minor leagues. But I want to talk about the two prospects that we've talked about here on the channel before, but they have really just taken a huge step and a huge leap. And of course, we'll dive into the regular season team, the major league team, all these different things. So I want to start with this and Trey Savage. Now, I covered in a video last week that Trey Savage and a couple other prospects there was a lot of movement surrounding, those guys, and Ross Atkins. He moved them up in management, moved them up from, up all the way up to Vancouver. Now Vancouver has a bit of a super team for A-ball at least. And in his debut with Vancouver, he struggled with his control early, but rebounded to post a solid first start with the Vancouver Canadians. He went 4 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 10 Ks on 73 pitches. And you can see, obviously, as we know, if you've watched the channel for a while, he is the Jays 2024 first round pick. And there was a point in this game where he had the bases loaded with no outs, and then he just destroyed 3 straight batters, striking out a bunch. So Trey Savage, he's a point now where he probably should have gotten promoted earlier. I don't think he's going to last too long in Vancouver, even though this was his first start with the team. I think he's going to get promoted to Double-A where he belongs very, very soon. But this is extremely encouraging if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, because, I mean, Trey Savage, he's the number 2 prospect in the Jays system. He's going to be a top 100 prospect. He absolutely dominated in yesterday's game despite not having control. And you can see this here from Jamie Campbell. Can't help but think we'll see him in Toronto this season. And this is a little bit of a, I guess, a bold take would be the word to use, because he was only drafted in 2024. But we're at a point now where we're seeing more than ever prospects get called up early, prospects who are out of college, especially because the college prospects, of course, are more MLB ready than most of the other ones. They get called up and they're ready to go most of the time here for a lot of these teams. And it's at the point now where if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, do you want to see Trey Savage with the major league team this year? Maybe not, just because, and again, his ETA is 2026 according to MLB.com pipeline. But at the same time, if they do end up needing more starting pitching help, it could be an Alek Manoah situation, which ended up working out fairly well for Manoah until, of course, he got injured. But through 2 innings and looking and diving deeper into this game, and we'll also be touching on one other player in this video as well, Arjun Namala. Stay tuned for that. But you can see here, he had 18, he faced 18 batters and had 11 whiffs through 2 innings. And we saw it down in low A before he got promoted to the Vancouver Canadians. Like, he's a guy who's just going to dominate hitters. He has an interesting arm slot. He has some interesting, mechanics, but they work fantastically. And he's at a point now where not only is he dominating hitters in low A, he's dominating hitters in Vancouver high A, but it wasn't easy either. Of course, 4 innings, 3 walks, but the fact that he was able to get out of that with 10 Ks is very, very impressive, especially because I'm sure there were some nerves there. He's, with Arjun Namala now, with some better players, and he is facing better hitters. And sometimes, command has been an issue for Trey Savage, but at this point, 3 walks, it is what it is there. 10 strikeouts, 73 pitches. And we know after the fact that, the Jays came out, there's been some reports rumbling about the reason it took him so long, the Jays that is, to promote Trey Savage, was because they wanted to make sure that they built him up as much as possible, and that, paid dividends there in yesterday's game. He went 73 pitches. So that's very encouraging. You can look at some of the other moves that have been happening surrounding the minor leagues. Again, Trey Savage went from A to A+, so did Cal Steven, Gage Stanifer, some other guys as well. They're getting promoted. CJ Van Eyck, longtime Jays prospect, got promoted to AAA. Ryan McCarty, AAA. So it is it's a good thing that these players are continuing to develop and obviously get promoted. And one which once was, as recent as last year before the trade deadline, a very, very poor, and maybe even before the 2024 draft, you want to go back there, very poor, back there and back then, a terrible farm system is now slowly, it's still towards the back in baseball, but it's still, it's getting there. And that's the big thing for this team, is having pitchers in the pipeline, having hitters in the pipeline, but also having pitchers that are going to be able to produce at the major league level, which is something that they've mightily struggled with over the past few years. Not just pitchers, but players in general, since that Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. surgence way back when Vladdy made his debut in 2019 there. So it's going to be interesting. Let me know down below your thoughts on Trey Savage. Again, very solid performance. Struggled a little bit with walks, gave up a couple runs, but you can't can't complain too much about it. And speaking of not being able to complain, Arjun Namala had on the same game, because again, they play in the same team now, he had an unbelievable game yesterday. A walk, a home run, a sac fly, and a triple. His OPS is up to 919. And again, Arjun Namala, this is somebody that is the number one prospect in the Jays system. He has a chance to jump into one of the best and one of the top prospects in baseball. He has flown through the prospect rankings. He has flown through all the different, things. And he's still, again, only in A ball, I guess high A ball now, A plus. But he's probably going to get promoted soon. But Arjun Namala, he has been very, very good. And he wasn't a part of this group because he's been with A plus Vancouver for a while. And if you look at his stats here and you think back to when he was drafted in 2023 with the 20th overall pick when he was 17 years old, we covered on the channel, he was a developmental pick, right? And in his first, I guess, full season between, Dunedin and the Florida Complex League, he put up a very respectable, 807 OPS, a bit better in the Florida Complex League. In Dunedin, low A ball, which, was very solid still. Again, he went 790 OPS. But this year, he's taking the leap, and he's 19 years old. He's in A plus ball, probably get promoted soon. The power is there, 8 home runs in 35 games. We know the current Blue Jays team could use some power. He had, again, a triple yesterday. His OPS now, he gets on base. He has, he's a very solid defender. He has great speed, all these different things. He has the chance to be, and of course, Trey Savage has the chance to be an ace. And we're seeing now with the two prospects, one in Trey Savage and, of course, they're on the same team now in Vancouver, and also Arjun Namala in Vancouver. We have the future of the Jays, and as it pertains again to the specific year this year, it's very interesting. I want to see what you guys think about this. Do you want to see them? It's not gonna, they're not gonna call up Arjun Namala. They have too many infielders, and he's just too young, I think, at this point. Not to say that Trey Savage is a lot older, but if there was a scenario where they wanted to or they needed to fill a spot with Jake Bloss now being injured and out for the year, presumably, you have Trey Savage. I mean, Jamie Campbell seems pretty confident that they'll be calling him up at some point this season, which is a little bit crazy. But at the same time, if he's continuing to dominate, he flies through AA and then obviously goes up to AAA, you would assume, though some prospects don't even go up to AAA. They just, go from AA to the big leagues. Would you want to see Trey Savage there? And also, let me know what your thoughts are on specifically Arjun Namala. He's been very, very good. Hopefully he can keep that power up. And he is the shortstop of the future beyond Bichette. And if Bichette stays, then there'll be some interesting question marks surrounding those two guys. But a couple other notes before we wrap up here. I want to touch on this. The Jays in the month of May randomly are now 8th best in a baseball in home runs hit, which is a far cry in a positive way from what we saw earlier on in the year where they were towards the bottom. They're slowly making progress there. They won a huge game yesterday against the Padres, shut them out. They can continue to hit home runs. We saw in yesterday's game, they didn't get many hits at all. They had a 2-run home run from Santander, solo home run earlier on in the game from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the top of the first inning. So it's going to be interesting. And hopefully the Jays can keep rolling a little bit here and get back into the get back above 500 for the first time in a very long time. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on all these prospects and the Jays' success. Thank you guys for watching.